Today is January 30th, 2024. The time is 4:33, and I think it's not too late for me to say Happy New Year, everybody.
Once you get to February, you can't
Can't do it anymore in February, so we
That's
still
right.
have a day. I'd like to welcome everyone to this Uplift Education Board of Trustees meeting. To ensure we have a quorum present, I will, as usual, read out the names of the members of the executive committee, and if you are here, please say present. Colin Clark, present. Dr. Lael Melville.
Present.
Thank you. John Beckert. Simon Chen. Pilar Davies.
Present.
Thanks, Pilar. Ricky Garcia. Present. Thanks, Ricky. Rusty Jaggers.
Present.
Thank you. Cameron Johnson. Andre McEwing.
Present.
John McPherson.
Present.
Harold Montgomery.
Present.
James Stanson. Christine Vanderbilt. Thank you, all of you all who could be here. We have a quorum, yes, Al?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I know here we do have a quorum of the executive committee present, and I call to order this meeting of the Board of Uplift Education. So our first item of business is our community forum. And Alex, you can manage this for the board. Alex, do we have any community members who are signed up to speak?
We do not.
Like that way, so thank you, Alex, very much. Okay, next up, we get to hear from Dr. Remy Washington on an update on our very exciting healthcare high school project. I mean, take it away.
So last time I got to share the exciting news that we were going to have this healthcare high school. Well, now everyone in the world knows we had it after getting all that great press a couple weeks ago. And so I wanted to share a couple of key updates for what we've been doing from December to January to kind of get this football rolling and moving in the right direction to launch that high school in the fall of 2024. And so I wanted to share the news with stakeholders. So we've had, I think one of the most awesome parts of sharing the news, all the senior leadership, myself, Yasmin, Daniel Gray, our managing director, Penny Jackson, our deputy chief of secondary schools, Jonathan Dan. We went to go and share and introduce the program to our 8th grade high school students, and that was super fun because they were like, what are you guys doing? What are you talking about? But we got a lot of information around their interests. There's a lot of interest, and Amanda will probably share more about that in her time with you guys. It was a great opportunity for us to share the program in real time with our scholars in 8th grade at Uplift Heights. We held a number of informational sessions for parents, virtual sessions for Uplift Heights parents. Yasmin's Parent Power Hour last month was dedicated, there was a portion dedicated to the Uplift Heights High School. So we went network wide, we shared communication to the parents and all of our other schools around Uplift High School. So we just taken a lot of opportunities to share as much as we can of how excited we are and what's to be included. For you guys who were at the Dallas Stakeholder Luncheon, we had a panel there that had our Daniel Gray, our managing director of college and career, it's Bill Dutton from Baylor Scott and White, and two of our high school alums who started the summer program with Baylor Scott and White shared their experiences around the programming, the experience that they had so far in the program. So it was really awesome to just hear their excitement and how well they're doing the program. And I put there last, so just lots of great press around Bloomberg's gift to not only our district, but 10 other districts around the country. So that's kind of on the sharing the news front. We've been news heavy, sharing everything we know so far. In the background, we started doing the curriculum and experience planning. So Baylor Scott and White and the Uplift team, they're working together to come up with like what's a real comprehensive and realistic timeline for completing like actual curriculum filled out for the entire 4 years. And so we mapped out the timeline. We created a couple decision points that we need to decide as a unit as well as an individual organization as well. And then we've really thought deeply around like how we're going to integrate those extra experiences that our kids need to have in order to get the career exposure, healthcare career exposure integrated into their everyday experience at Uplift Heights High School. Super neat was that HAS, who we work with to build our schools, they actually worked with Baylor Scott and White and have made the decision to do the planning for the simulation labs. They'll be located in Uplift Heights and Uplift Gray. They will design those for free, so that's pretty awesome to have that gift from them. And so we're really excited to be able to see what that's going to look like. It'll be a brand new lab for our kiddos. And so to go and actually see what a lab looks like in healthcare high school, we're planning a visit. Myself, Yasmin, Daniel will head down with the team from Baylor Scott and White to visit Temple ISD, who currently has a healthcare high school and has one of the newest laboratory simulation labs. So we're actually going to go together on February 22nd to check out that space and the programming. And then lastly,
Are we not to interrupt you, but I now know why it's Temple ISD. Do you know why? Okay, Rusty's going to tell us why.
That's where Scott and White originally was.
That's where Scott White, that's right. And when they merged, apparently there was a real worry that all the resources were going to come to Dallas outside of Temple. So they intentionally Rusty, who's our little healthcare expert. Fun fact, Scott and Mike was headquartered there.
Awesome, that's super neat to know.
When you said that the actual curriculum in new app, when, like, how, are you talking years, or are you talking?
Months.
Months, in terms of, one lab will be put in place at the goal is by the summer. And the curriculum, we will need to like overlay the entire 4 years. We'll have to figure out how we're gonna pitch it, because of staffing implications and things like that. And so we just wanna make sure we're well prepared to make, when we should make other decisions down the road as the program develops. So next year shouldn't be too difficult on the curriculum part. It's probably more the latter years, but we will make sure we're thinking about that early and often. And we plan, places where we kind of revisit that down the line.
So kids who are applying now, in 8th grade, will be able to
Correct, so the current,
graduate.
you got it. The current 8th graders at Heights are in first in line for those 9th grade spots. And then we open up to other Uplift school 8th graders as well. Thank you.
If kids come in at above 9th grade, 9th or 10th, and then we don't accept new students after that, can they join in, and they have to start in 9th grade?
They have, currently, as we currently have the school design, they have to start in 9th grade. Yep. And then lastly, we have an advisory group. That's the group who came together and put together the original RFP. We still meet every single week. We kicked off the steering committee last week, and we had our first steering committee meeting. And then we are going to join the Baylor Scott and White team for their official kickoff on February 15th. We're going to take some of our kids from Uplift Heights to join us. We're hoping to have an alumni speaker to join as well. But we'll be there to celebrate with the Baylor Scott and White team. And Bloomberg Philanthropies is planning an upcoming visit. I think the visit is February 20th, and they kind of moves on us every day.
Every day. This afternoon, it's February 20th.
This afternoon is February 20th. And so they'll be coming in to see, to meet us and to hear more about the work that we've been doing so far with Healthcare High School. Any questions?
Remy, are there, or anybody else, are there a few high-level items that you described that the money from Bloomberg is being spent on? Is it curriculum development? Is it
I can
teacher
answer
hire?
it, because I work with Daniel on the budget. We were explaining this to Coleman Lil yesterday. We have like a divide and conquer here, and I get contracts and budget, and then we get that fun stuff. And that's basically how this works. So, I would say probably one of the largest pieces of the budget is staff. And that is additional teaching staff, and a campus-based staff to help with the advising of, as they transition. And then obviously the staffing on the Baylor Scott and White side as well to help navigate the workforce. So the largest chunk is STEM throughout both networks to facilitate it. And then you're right, there is what I would call more curriculum materials pieces than curriculum development. There's then another big part of the budget that it facilitates the experience piece. So the transportation of moving the kids back and forth, whatever are the hands-on experiences they're going to have. Then what I'm going to call, we have facilities, and that is both some modest renovations to Uplift Heights overall and the simulation lab that Remy spoke about. So HKS is walking with me on Friday, so they can start getting a sense of what we might need to be doing, obviously this summer when the kids are out. So those are we have some other smaller line item budgets, like we put in there marketing, but as Amanda will share, like, we're not gonna have to spend any marketing dollars at all, so we'll be able to reallocate this to other purposes.
In the context of bringing other stuff.
Yes, sorry, it's marketing for the healthcare high school, yes. Everything is in context of the healthcare high school.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for Remy? Okay. Thank you so much. This is so exciting. So great. So Leslie, we're going to hear from Leslie on finance.
Great. So most of you actually sit on the Finance and Strategy Committee, so I won't overly labor this, but we'll make sure to hit on the high points and kind of open it up for questions from there. 2024, the message is, look, we are going to hit plan. We're on target to meet our debt covenants. We are going to have to do some things to mitigate the loss in cash school year, we start to see the headwinds become a challenge for us. So, the state has not made any funding changes, so we are putting plans in place to figure out how we are going to mitigate the challenges we have in 2025, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Overall, we're on target to present our final budget submission to TEA in June. So next slide. This is just an overview to give you where we're at, and as far as 2024, the chart on the left shows our revenue and expenditure plans that were in the initial budget, and then where we are today based on the latest information with enrollment slightly down about 500 scholars, and even more importantly, our average daily attendance, which is what we get paid on, is 0.7 of a point below what we had in the original plan. That being said, our expenditures are down more than our revenue impact. So we are comfortable when it comes to meeting our debt service ratio and actually trending right now to get slightly above. So what is driving our expenditure downside is really driven by managing and monitoring our expenses tightly, and higher than average vacancies. So we continue to see an elevated vacancy rate versus where we've been in the past.
Well, a better vacancy rate than last year in terms of teachers. So there is some good news there. I know everyone's been super mindful of like, are we keeping our school staff? We're not at the vacancy rates we all want to see from 3 to 4 years ago, but we underachieved last year.
Yes, correct. Look, just to bring everybody back to where is the state kind of been in the past versus our expenditure level, and you can see basically from 2016 through 2020, we really trended very closely in line. As our expenditures uptick, the state has been pretty good about adjusting the allotment per child, but you will see that 2019 is the last time frame that we saw a significant increase from the state, and we have not seen anything since then, and we continue to see this uptick of our expenditure per scholar in the tune of about 30%. Now, if you look at where we're projecting this year to come out on our expenditure per scholar, you do see that we did back down. That's because we took actions coming into the year, as you guys may recall from last year's budgeting process. So that's us doing proactive things. So how are we going to close that gap? Overall, if I did nothing and wasn't strategic about it, I potentially would be going into this year with about a $20 million headwind that I would need to cover. However, there are one-time things that we can do that will help us to mitigate the gap and really tighten that to be closer to around $6 million. What are those things? So ESSER is one of the things that I've spent time with TEA to understand exactly how we can leverage that. So that's going to become a lever for us. We have until the end of September to exhaust our ESSER funds. As you'll recall, with the Luna sale change, we had to take a look at not doing some of the expenditures, capital expenditures that we originally planned, putting turf in all of our high schools. So pulling that back and sticking with our plan on ESSER, we potentially have an opportunity to carry forward and optimize those funds. So basically, I'm going to redistribute $13 million of That in combination with planning our debt service ratio slightly below where we normally plan to 1.22. Our debt covenants is 1.0. I will be working very closely with our banking financial partners to make sure they understand why we'll go from a favorable DSR to slightly lower than what we've reported in the past. I feel comfortable with that, and that's what's been shared with the Finance and Strategy Committee. In regards to the remaining $6 million, we have a good plan in place in our charging board to close that gap, inclusive of tightening our revenue forecast. As we learn more about our student population, that changes our revenue. So we'll tighten that up. In addition, we have taken a very conservative approach on our revenue projections. Amanda will give you some updates on the section counts enrollment and things like that, but I think we've really put a plan in place that targets a realistic number of scholars and sections. And then, so with that, if we are continuing to have a higher vacancy rate on some of our teachers and staff and so on, in the past, we have never planned for a larger than like 2 or 3% vacancy rate. So this year, knowing where the levels have been, we can potentially take a plan on a little bit more vacancy than we have in the past. So I have some levers there to lean on. We're looking at bonus payouts, how we can potentially tie that directly to attendance to get some savings, tasking our departments as we go through the proactive planning process. So those are some of the things that I feel like we will more than exceed where we're at today to get a plan in place that we're really comfortable with. Just to kind of give you a high level of like, we are running on this. The plan is being put to action. We will continue to bring you guys along on the way. For today's purpose, really just want to make sure you know where we're at and that we're charging forward on this, and we're in a good place to present to you guys for June 18th board meeting will be when we have to vote in the final budget that gets submitted to TEA. So that's the kind of charging forward where we're at. Any questions? I went through it pretty quick and high level, but yes.
How does that affect our bond funding? This new budget?
So planning to a slightly lower debt service ratio, but it should not impact us. It will impact our first score with TEA, but I've gone through the point rating on that, and the impact, we're still gonna, like, so they score us, right? TEA scores us on, for first, we're at a 95 today, that was our last, and I don't anticipate the movement to be significant enough that it would impact that significantly. It's literally like, instead of 10 points, we would get 8 points, and that's really the key consideration for that.
The state board gives public schools academic accountability rating, which we used to bring like our B rating from STAR, and then they give us a first rating on our fiscal accountability, and we've gotten a superior rating for the past several years. This will be the highest rating yet, and we're like an A. And so that's what Leslie's sharing is we might see a little compression from our 95 down, but not to where it bumps us to the next category.
Yeah.
And even if it honestly did, we went from an A to a D, given this situation, like, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it, because we're trying to manage through the day, not cutting any more staff. Like, that's really what we're trying to do right now. And we took out 150 positions going through this school year, and every town hall I'm at, the staff, we all talk about bringing staff back. There's not a single one I've been to where they haven't said we feel it. So I appreciate all the creativity that Leslie and team had to say, how can we try to find other levers so the number of
just a quick comment for future discussion with this group. I'm going to try and channel my friend Carol, who I agree with on this. Because of the size of this gap and because of the roll forward is, like, we're going to be in good shape for 25, the kind of stuff we want to have. But if we were to roll forward without approved funding for 26, it gets to be even more unclear. So once we feel like we really are on top of the plan for 25, school year 25, we'll, at least as a committee, we'll ask some small portion of management, not a big confusing effort or distraction, but to take a look at our economic viability by campus, by school, by classroom, just so we are more prepared if in the worst case scenario. So we know whether we are or not. For a variety of reasons, we would want that to be a big organization-wide distraction, but it's something we probably need to take a look at as soon as we can as a committee.
Yes. And I might ask if we stay on the slide for a minute. Kevin John years ago was like, Jasmine, the board member was like, we need a cocktail, like, talking point. Like, what's your one talking point? And I hope this image stays with you, because the only way we addressed that 31% gap over the past couple of years was federal ESSER funds. If we did not have the $75 million we had in federal ESSER funds over the past 3 to 4 years, we would have been in a horrible situation coming out of the window. By the way, I think the state very much understands we had access to ESSER, and so they've been able to do that yellow line because they knew we had another source to draw from. So we were having a conversation about some advocacy-related stuff yesterday, and like a comment was made that some legislators do not actually believe that schools need increased funding. And I can appreciate that if they're like, well, you've gotten by for this long with it. Well, we got by because of ESSER. So when you find yourselves in conversations and people are like, why do people need, why do public schools need more funding? I hope you'll be able to say, well, actually, public expenses have been up 30% over the past couple of years, and state funding has been flat since 2019. The only way we got through as a network was from federal eligibility funds. Like, just to help people understand that we're not just asking for funds because we want to be like fat and happy. Like, we actually are losing the federal funding source that allowed us to sustain this flat funding.
And I did an analysis with Team and I on looking at the student-teacher ratio over time, and to see did we truly increase that with ESSER, and the reality was we really didn't. It was largely done through the increased cost of teachers, so it truly is inflationary.
It's wage pressure, right? Because wages are 70% of our budget.
Okay, one
Please,
corollary
yes,
to that
yes,
talking point, because we were having this conversation, and I attended a breakfast hosted by the Texas Public Charter School Association. Starlee Coleman and her team, who Gavin as well, who represents much of the charter school community. She lobbies in Washington, for the whole community. I think since we talked, I sent you this data, but since we talked, they brought us some data. So a question that I asked at that meeting was, well, national data for all of public education shows that the number of students per teacher has been trending downwards, and in recent times, like last year, it's been at an all-time low, and yet we hear about all these teacher shortages. And so in a national sense, that kind of undercuts the argument that everybody, like, you say there's so many vacancies that you have more teachers per student than ever before. How could you possibly, you're just trying to get gravy here, right? That was the national data. So not charters, all public schools. I posed the question, how about charters? They don't have the data for Uplift. But in Texas, it's for ISDs in general, that national pattern is present, which is to say the number of students per teacher has been trending down. But for the Texas charter world, that's not the case. It actually trended up for several years, went a little bit back down, but it's actually no lower than it's been. It's not been an all-time low. So the whole charter community has actually not been improving that ratio.
part of that is because Charter's getting us from the nutritional.
Yeah.
So we have less staff.
And we have not been improving that ratio either, because we had much.
Yeah.
Column, does that include SPED plus general student population?
Yeah, as,
That's always
the
the question.
woman Jessica at the organization had a careful footnote. Please note, this is not telling us how many kids are in a typical homeroom. This is telling us the grand total teacher FTE, all categories, as you say, SPED and so forth, learning specialists of all kinds, divided by, or really the grand total number of students divided by that number.
Andre, you're raising a really good point. Because of this special education, the teachers shortage right now, which is much starker, a little more striking than on the gen ed side. I bet if we looked at it, we'd see our special education classrooms have a less favorable ratio than we might. There are more kids with a special education teacher than we like, because we're not fully staffed on the special ed side.
And Jasmine, on the vacancy rate, are we losing on principals or teachers?
Oh, the vacancy rate is not filling all of our teaching positions.
Right. But I guess, are we turning over, because I'm hearing for work.
Yeah, our principal turnover's been fairly consistent with what it's been in the past several years. It definitely hurts us when we have a last minute school year change, and we make a different decision, because teachers, they want to know who they're going to work for, right? And so they either stay to school for a principal, or they leave when it's uncertain that they're going to think about the principal. So they do go together, and we do oftentimes see, for the initial first year of a principal, a higher turnover at campus of the teaching staff. Yeah, yeah.
Because one goes, the principal goes, typically one or two teachers go with it.
Yeah, but it also could just be uncertainty, like, right, like, I don't know if I'm gonna like the new person.
Desmond, we know that the state has these funds,
Yes.
and they're earmarked for education.
Yes.
Are there high hopes that they will release them next session?
Just on the student floor. I mean, I can't imagine without now having the safety net in closer that they won't. And I think, what's holding it up right now, obviously, is the voucher component, and I
Yeah.
think we'll see in the primaries in March, like, if the governor get his people so he can pass it. And then if he can pass it, then like, why would you keep shortchanging public ed? There's no need to anymore, because he got his agenda item. But crazier things have happened, and that's why I agree with John and Harold that, this summer, as soon as Leslie and I put fiscal year 25 to bed, we're gonna start working on fiscal year 26, what are all the different scenarios at play. I just think the ISDs have stayed quiet this year because they did not want vouchers, and they had enough ESSER funds to get through next year, just like we've been able to figure out how to get through next year. But the following year, when no one has ESSER left, I think they're gonna be a lot more critical about it, and it didn't help us if they were quiet.
Thank you.
Other questions for? Okay, thank you very much, Leslie. Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Amanda for an update on next year's enrollment and lottery.
Great, so to support our budget, we take a closer look at our path to
remembers why we have such a high day before school number because of our Thursday school motions.
So a closer look at our applications this year. So overall, apps are up 14%. A lot of that is due to the headwinds from Luna. And as I mentioned before, our post-lottery gap is about half of what it was last year. We're seeing bright spots at Triumph, Hampton, and Heights, who have noticeable increases year over year. Luna has seen significant headwinds, and that will actually support White Rock Hills because we'll be able to leverage their wait list for White Rock and tell the story about how those White Rock families will eventually be feeding into Uplift Luna. And we're also seeing positive network-wide interest in Heights, and I'll show you more specifics on that in a couple slides. Some of our focus areas, last year we really focused on pre-K and kinder. This year first grade apps are down just a bit, about 5% across the network, so that we have targeted campaign for us. Uplift Wisdom has pockets that are down despite, what I say? Uplift Williams has pockets down, but it's interesting because Triumph, which is its feeder school, is seeing really big gains, and so we're doing some targeted marketing to really tell that cohesive story there. And then in Fort Worth, while Meridian and Mighty are up year over year, Ascend, Crescendo, and Elevate are down, and Ascend and Elevate have the most capacity to fill as well. So we know, given last year between lottery and first day of school, we see about 10,000 first choice applications, so we expect that to continue this year as we kind of continue the year-long recruitment season. Here's just a high level where you can see by school apps for next year compared to apps for this year, with the differences in the percent change. And then looking at Heights specifically, so we have seen a ton of interest both from Heights as well as from around the network. So this is as of yesterday, so we had about 60% of our scholars had re-enrolled. Of those, 96 had opted into the healthcare program, 4 had opted out to transfer. The team is actively calling all of these families. Re-enrollment goes to February 14th, so folks have a little bit more time to make that decision. Ultimately, it's pretty strong interest there, 96% so far. And then across the network too, these numbers continue to change, but as of yesterday, we've had about 167 or 8% of our 8th graders across the network who were interested in transferring. Yesterday was 26 applications. We probably had at least 10 who were actively calling those folks who have come in today. We'll be pulling up about 34 spots. I think there's right now maybe 50 apps in the system, so some of those folks will get seats at Heights next year, but it's great to see the positive interest. So looking ahead, our recruiting team is fully hired or will be on February 6th, and they have been out there and continuously focusing on our hard-to-fill schools and grades. They've also been actively calling folks with our internal phone sales coach, which I think has really helped us to continue and stay flat over the year while we've actually pulled back on our marketing because we've gone through the process to the agency and we're just now onboarding a new agency. We're also piloting different ideas, so we're doing this targeted time freedom digital campaign. We just created one for Crescendo and Summit for Elevate and Ascend, so those will launch in the coming weeks as well. We're initiating some parent promoters, so having a few schools have essentially paying the parents to help us to promote the school. We're doing a deeper referral campaign on a few schools, trying to see if we can encourage our scholars to refer friends, so they can win a hoodie and be able to wear it to school on Fridays or a designated day. We're also implementing HubSpot, which I think we had talked about this fall, so we got a grant of $100,000 for Growth Fund. So we're in the process of integrating HubSpot now.
My apologies. In a perfect world, I would have done this at the last full board meeting, and so those of you are actually going to hear it twice, because I'm going to do it today, but I also will do it again at the next board meeting. The truth of the matter is, recruitment of new board members is a constant and ongoing process. It is a big part of each of our responsibilities is to make sure that we bring along people who can be a part of this organization and help it have a higher profile and more support. So we've already been working on this pretty much since we started, but we've done a couple of interesting things. One, we've developed a new nomination form, having to do with the fact that we'd like to know more about candidates before we get into the process of getting to know them. It was sent out in your pre-read materials. It is not no more time in what we're going to see today, because we don't need to go through it. If you have any concerns, any comments, any suggestions, by all means, please reach out to me, and we can take another cut at it. Secondarily, there's a description of what the responsibilities are. So when you think about someone who might be a potential candidate, it is certainly something for you to share with them and describe exactly what is the expectations of the position as you attempt to work with people and see if they'd be interested in learning more about the organization. We currently have 13 executive committee members and 28 overall board members. There are 4 or 5 who are rolling off or stepping down early. We have 2 candidates that were really quite far along in the process because we did start early, but we have plenty of room for 3 to 4, maybe 5 additional candidates. You all are the best people to advocate for people to be part of this organization because of the deepest experience with it, frankly, the deepest love for it, and it's that excitement that often gets your compatriots interested. These circle graphs, if you can read them, I'm getting old and can't read those necessarily. What we're looking for, this is, I've stripped out the 4 to 5 people, or actually Yasmin has stripped out the 4 to 5 people that we know will not be returning. And on the left, we have a demographic profile which describes race role component, and on the right, it is a gender component. We also have skills, who we're losing, and what kind of skills will we be looking for, given our population. In our schools, we really need Hispanic men and women. We definitely need, we need to continue to look for females, to have a reasonably good balance. That is where we will stand until we add additional people. The skill set of those departing go everything from community voices to finance. So we really still need the same kind of skill sets. We want people who want to be engaged with the community. We still need advocacy. We need people who have connections to elected representatives on the state and the local level. So bear that in mind when you're thinking about them. We also are really looking for people who can potentially bring corporate resources. So in addition to their own contributions, people who are part of a company who might have commitments to community investment and that we could work with. Ricky has served as somebody at Schwab to carry on that relationship. So it's really important to make sure we're also getting corporate relationships going on. The election is in June. There's a lot that happens between the time you send the nomination form in, there's one-on-one meetings, there's school tours, there are opportunities to go to our special events, there's a meeting with the governance committee. So the sooner we begin that process, the better job we will actually do at recruiting who we would really like to have as a part of this. If this year's not the one, because there could be people that you go, yes, but not this year, we are going to keep listed names going forward so we don't start with a blank slate every single year. Second topic, and that's the QR code to reach the nomination form. You can also do it via paper. I don't mind at all. You can PDF it up to me via an email, or you can send it to Alex, you can send it to Yasmin, whatever you need to do, and you don't have to fill out absolutely every box about every person. But the more information you give us, the better job we will do when we're actually interviewing them about their interests and capabilities. Anybody have any questions based on what you had in your pre-read packet? The form and the descriptors.
A comment and a question.
Yes.
So your circles weren't in the pre-read. Am I correct?
They were not.
They were
We
not.
can send out this PowerPoint.
I think
that's
that's-
to everyone.
That would be good for the
Yeah.
next
Right.
meeting. And I want to say it was very helpful to me because it's been a while since I've worked through the process and I think we're getting better about informing prospective candidates about time commitment and monetary commitment, and I think the better picture we give them, the more people we get. So thank you.
Okay. And I will say that, I always have a good luck in talking with CEOs of companies who are trying to get their executive team members plugged in. Oftentimes they might be described themselves to be on board seats, but we had, lunch with a CEO of a Dallas-based company, and she was like, hey, I have no capacity right now, just cheer like the United Way's, corporate giving campaign, but I want every single member of my executive team to be sitting on the board. So she sent it out to her executive team, and 2 members reached out to us and said, okay, chief level individuals, it would be great to have on the board, and we're interested in learning more. So just know sometimes too, even if the person you talk to says, like, I'm at full capacity, depending on what their role is, you can say, well, is there anyone on your senior leadership team that you're trying to create opportunities for? And most times you'll hear yes, and they'll want to help connect you.
And anybody who has a connection with someone at TI,
Yes.
we have one candidate and then one person I met judging the science fair this weekend who's a young professional. So it's finding the right connection into TI, given our STEM focus. It would be a wonderful corporation for us to find a great connection with.
I've got no idea on that.
Oh, great.
Probably closer than the one we talked about before, so I'll
Okay.
talk more about that.
Excellent.
And I have an update on that too. Sure.
Okay.
Can you go back to the previous slide? Because I think we stayed on the executive
Yes, we did.
committee.
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. I don't think we're going to do this. Can I just read the numbers and read what the percentages are?
I was.
So non-voting board, 29%, and 28% after their, 40%, and 40% down.
I think for when we go into the general board meeting, adding the skill sets,
Skill set,
or
yeah.
this general categories is important. I've heard some feedback I was sharing with Rusty earlier, that as we diversify the board, and that also means we have to diversify how we talk about what your commitment is, because we are bringing in people that have different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, different ages. And so why we're specifically seeking folks, we always need to remind ourselves, because I think we've done a good job of recruitment over the past 2 years of diverse individuals. But I think in the way that we kind of get back into our traditional groove of talking monetary, specifically and mainly monetary give and gets versus skill sets, So I think that we need to be cognizant of putting those two things on the same footing. Every time we mention money, we should be mentioning skill set as well, or to some degree, because I think it's especially for those that don't have as the right, the connections, the networks, the personnel, it can be a little disarming, or it can just be a little disenfranchising for them as new board members. So I just think we need to keep that in mind. And so let's highlight skill sets too.
Easy, we'll do it for the next one.
Yeah, we would, given that we're gonna repeat this for the full board, because other people also will, I hope will also be nominating, we'll add that. So the second topic is, we'd all like to know what else you all would like to do. If you are serving on committees that you absolutely prefer, but you have other interests, we would love to know that. We'd love to know from any one of you if there's a different committee you'd like to serve on, if there's an additional leadership opportunity that you would like to participate in. And in fact, we'd love feedback from you all about potential leadership, among your peers who you see as emerging leaders within this group. I would like to hear from virtually all of you as to what your interests are going forward. And it's even more important when we do this in the broad board. I'd like to hear, the perfect example is Simon Chen came on as an audit chair literally the day he walked in the door. And he and I have discussed what other things he might like to do, because the audit is very localized in time, right? So very discrete period of time, but there are other things he'd like to learn about. And he and I have been discussing what other committees there might be that he would be interested in. And so I think we should all be thinking about that throughout our time on this board. What else might we want to do? So those are my thoughts. Feel free to email me, Cullen, Leo, even Alex would be happy to take an email, I am sure.
Is there a presumption that if you're on a committee or you're chairing a committee that you're going to be on that committee next year? Or is there a process that either you or Colin or somebody meets with those chairs and say, hey, can you do it again next year, or we'd like you to think about doing it?
Let's put you to that person. I have a thought on it.
That's what I'm inviting you to do. I'm inviting you to let me know as we build out next year. That's why we want to know now, so that we can build out.
So yeah, any change y'all want to make, anything you're interested in exploring, we only know. Y'all let us know.
Yeah, and I would just say, Paula, if someone doesn't proactively reach out to us before we get to that June meeting where we get on all this later, chairs will reach out to the individual and say, hey, we just want to make sure you still want to do this and we have you in the right
I'm
line.
not foreshadowing anything.
But
Just
but to follow up, and yes, the point would be, it's fair, of course we would reach out now.
Yes, but we hope you'll proactively.
But we hope you will, and if anyone doesn't, then probably the fall is, well, we sure have a good slate of people, hope everyone will keep doing what they're doing in a lot of cases.
Okay.
So we need to know any further thoughts, so as to modify that plan. Trustees, that it?
I think it's also helpful to have a level of consistency. So we hope that when people come on, that in their first year, so we think that they will at least serve 2 years. I would think in that position just to make sure we have some kind of consistency. Now, having said that, if it wasn't working well, or if it's a big,
But I think we should be upfront with people too. It's like, this is a 2-year commitment. I mean, it's not like you've got handcuffs on it. This is the expectation for it to come a year or whatever.
Good point. very high degree of clarity about the duration and office of chair and vice chair of the board. And we've had maybe less clarity about the duration and office of all the committee chair jobs. I should, at the very least, say we're asking for 2 years, and in some cases, extending to make sense. All right. Thanks, Rusty. You have okay. Next up, Alex will cover an administrative action item.
Thanks, Colum. We just have one administrative action item, and that is to consider and approve the board board minutes from December 5th. You guys can include that in the pre-read, so don't have that in this inbox. Are there any questions on the board minutes? I'm hearing none. Colum?
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the December 5th, 2023 board meeting minutes as presented? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any votes against the motion to approve the minutes? Hearing none, the motion is approved by unanimous vote. Thank you, Alex. All right.
I have just one quick announcement that Angela asked me to make before you officially adjourn. We have our leader luncheon this Friday with the Uplift Meridian and Uplift Mighty staff. We have a brand new primary director at Uplift Mighty, Irma, who's lovely, and Roz is the only one signed up so far. So we'd love it if, we normally just have 2 people that go as a pair. So we'd love it if one other board member was free on Friday, and if you know now when to tell me, great. Otherwise, I will send out an email and ask if someone would like to accompany Roz to meet with the Mighty and Meridian leadership teams. And we've heard nothing but positive feedback from everyone who's done these leader lunches of how much they've enjoyed them. Andre, are you upset because we have an open spot for Mighty and Meridian?
No.
Okay. He's like, we can never have an open spot in Fort Worth.
Exactly this.
And those are both in Fort Worth, just to let you
Yes, they're like,
Yeah.
they're a feeder pattern
Yeah.
school, so we do our feeder patterns together. And is it at Meridian?
At Mighty.
It's at Mighty, which is under 5 minutes apart from each other. So,
This will be fun.
yes, it is always super fun. And what time is the luncheon, Angela?
11:30.
11:30.
For a school tour, right?
11 o'clock for a school tour.
Okay.
And then 11:30 is the start of the lunch. And we have another set of invites coming out for the late March through May luncheons coming out as well. And so we've paired people based on what their interest already was from earlier in the year. And where we have gaps, we'll do another open invite for others to join.
Did you say you're going?
Yeah, yes.
That's awesome. And we'd be happy if there's another board member who wants to join. Yes, so we've got Roz and Andre.
Everybody's welcome.
Yes, okay, thank you, Andre. If anyone else says they would like to join, please let me know. And we'll add you to the awesome trio. Thank you, Andre.
Come to a point where we can check whether there's any reason to close session. I'm not aware of
No.
that reason.
No?
Okay. Then I will ask whether there's any other business that you would like to bring before the executive session. Andre, is there anything you'd like to bring?
He's just confirming his lunch plans now for
Okay.
Friday.
If in fact there is none, then I will say the time is now 5:30 and the board never to leave open session. The same quorum of